So I read this book like 2 weeks ago and I'm already starting to forget what happened. So I wrote down a little list. I'm going to write down here. That way when somebody's like, hey Rachel, what happened in that book you just read? I'll be able to go, 1 sec please. And I'll watch this video and I'll know exactly what happened because it's starting to get really embarrassing at this point. So I summed it up. I wrote it all out like a nerd. So in one sentence, this book, They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera, is 2 boys are destined to die by the end of the day, meet up because of a friend finder app, have mediocre adventures, fall in love, and you guessed it, die. So that's basically one sentence, too long, didn't read, boom, that's the book. If you're here for a little bit more in depth, let's get into that now. I started making a character list, but I don't know. I'll just read what I wrote. I wrote, Mateo Torres has lived most of his life being careful, best friends with Lydia, dad in coma, spends lots of time on his computer, needs to live a little, nerd. That pretty much sums him up to a T. Rufus and Mateo, still in love with his ex-girlfriend, lives in a foster home with his squad, the Plutos. I could have written more about him as well, but I didn't. There's also Amy, who is Rufus's ex-girlfriend, Peck, who is Amy's new boyfriend, who Rufus hates and beats up at the beginning of the book. Tago and Malcolm are BFFs with Rubo? No. BFFs with Rufus. They're his homeboys, if you will. The scene is set in New York, I believe. That could be wrong. You should read the book if I'm wrong. Terms to know. Deathcast. Service that informs people of what day they will die. So you wake up and they're like, ring, ring, and you're like, uh-oh, and then boom, you're dead. Not immediately. You don't know how you're going to die. They don't tell you when you're going to die. You're just going to die sometime that day, and you just got to accept it. A decker is somebody who is going to die that day. They're on deck. I thought that was kind of fun. Last Friend is an app that one of the characters, you meet her in the book, who created the app. And it helps deckers meet up so that they can have a friend. Some people are on the app who aren't deckers, and they're just on there to, like, be friends, like, meet somebody, tell them secrets that they're never going to see again, so stuff like that. I also wrote down a line that I really liked. This was, like, in the middle of one of those things. I don't know. I wish I would have underlined more in this book because there were other really good lines, but the one that I really liked was, quote, one of those songs that never apply to me but helped me lose myself anyway. I thought that was really nice, so that's a good quote from there. So this book, like, jumps between different character perspectives, so that's always really interesting, and I really appreciate that in this book they actually put, like, the name, because I feel like such a bumbling idiot every time there's a book that switches characters but it doesn't tell you the name at the beginning, because then I'm just sitting there, like, halfway through and I'm like, oh shit, that's who we are. But this book makes it really easy for ding-dongs like me, I guess. So the play-by-play. So this is the nitty-gritty, chapter by chapter, in case you're really, really curious. I'm just going to read my bullet points. I might elaborate a little bit, we'll see. So the play-by-play. This book is sectioned into different parts. So part 1, Deathcast. Part 2, The Last Friend. Part 3, The Beginning. Part 4, The End. And then it ends. So, part 1, Deathcast. Mateo gets his call that his time is up while he's chilling at his apartment. So he's just chilling at home, he's online, doing whatever he's doing, nerd shit. And he gets this call from Victoria? What's her name? No, her name is not Victoria. Andrea. So Andrea is the one who calls Mateo that his time is up while he's just chilling. He's like, well, shit, that sucks. He has a broken stove. That's very important for you to know for later. We see Rufus is beating up Peck because he wants Amy back or something like that. And then Rufus gets the call and his homeboys are like, oh, that ain't good. He's looking around. Mateo signs up for Last Friend. He starts talking to some weirdos online who are all like, hey, wanna bang? And he's like, well, that's not really what I had in mind for today. Rufus, as his kind of last thing, decides he wants to go back to the foster home. I can't remember if there's a special name for the foster home, but, like, they all call themselves the Plutos. Maybe that's just his friends, or maybe it's the whole thing. I don't remember. So Rufus goes back to the foster home so they can throw him, like, a funeral for the living. Amy comes, and she's there, and she's mad because Rufus was beating up Peck, and she's like, what the hell is this? While they're at the funeral, and everybody's saying their last words to Rufus, Peck has called the cops from Amy's phone, and Rufus has to make a quick escape. He has a bike, and he's really into biking, so he zooms away on his bike. And then when he's going around looking at stuff, he sees graffiti up on the wall that is like spray paint of the symbol for the Last Friend app. And he decides, yeah, I'll sign up for that. And it downloads super quick. And they make a big point of being like, wow, that downloads so quick because we're all dying, hee hee. So I thought that was kind of funny. So Mateo and Rufus chat on the app, and Rufus agrees to come drag Mateo out of his apartment. Because Mateo's like, I am not coming out of this apartment on my own. Somebody's going to have to drag my ass out of here because I want to crawl into a ball and stay here. But anyway, he calls him up. He's like, please come get me. And so then we're in part 2, The Last Friend. The boys meet, which is super great. He comes up, he's like, ooh, I hope he's not an ex-murderer or something, but he seems pretty chill. And then Mateo's like first wish is that he wants to go visit his dad at the hospital. Remember, his dad's in a coma, so he just wants to be able to like say goodbye to him one last time and like leave him a little note, stuff like that. While he's in the hospital, he's like, hey dude, give me like 10 more minutes. I'm just gonna like talk to my dad. And he's like, yeah, that's totally fine. You can take all the time you need. And Mateo's like, no, get me after 10 minutes. So Mateo leaves a note and he cries and he sings to his dad, and it's really sweet. We are introduced to Delilah. So a split, we get Delilah's perspective for the first time. She's a reporter who gets the call, but she thinks her ex is pranking her. Like, she just broke up with him and she thinks he's like mad at her, and he works for the Deathcast people, so she thinks he had one of his friends call and just to like mess with her day. So she's not taking it seriously at all. We jump back into Mateo and Rufus's perspective. The boys go to Cannon Cafe for a meal, which is Rufus's like absolute favorite place to go. And it's real cute. Mateo's like, oh, what should I get? And he's like, I don't know, everything's good. And he's like, okay, I'll get your usual. And I don't remember. It was something weird. It was like, I don't know. Something wild. And the waitress there was like real sad. And then Mateo's next kind of wish is he wants to go to his best friend Lydia's house. So they go to Lydia's house and Mateo plays with Penny. And Penny is Lydia's daughter and Lydia's boyfriend, husband person. He died a little while back. So like Mateo's kind of been like, not like a father figure, but he's been there for Penny growing up. She's only like 2, so who knows. So they're just walking along and Rufus shows Mateo his Instagram account, and Mateo's like, yo dude, why is every single photo on your feed black and white? And he explains that, you know, when his parents died, so Rufus's family died almost all together except for him, so he feels like a ton of guilt about that. They were in a car together and then they like crashed off a bridge and he was the only one to get out of the car, and so there's all that. So he's got this thing about water, and he says like his like the color like left his life after that day, and so that's why everything on his Instagram account is black and white. Mateo tells him on this last day he should add some color back, and so it starts this whole thing where Rufus is like posting on his Instagram throughout the day, also important. And then I think Amy calls or something like that, and Mateo finds out that Rufus is running from the cops, and he yeets out of there. He's like, I'm not going to be with you. I don't know you at all. They kind of make up and whatever. The next big thing is that the boys go skydiving at Make a Moment, and Make a Moment is like this kind of like VR like area where you can go and you put on the goggles and they do funny stuff. So like the skydiving is them just putting on these suits and then jumping like 10 feet on a bungee cord, and they're like real disappointed about it. They're like, that is not what I wanted. The next thing they do is they go to the cemetery to visit Mateo's mom's grave, and I'm pretty sure that she died giving birth to Mateo, so he's like never really known her. And while they're there, literally the spot right next to his mom's grave, they're literally digging Mateo's grave, so he's like so that's like a big moment for him. And then we get to part 3, the beginning. The boys end up going to this bookstore next to a gym, and they have these like mystery books. And so, not like mystery like, oh, who done it, but like the cover is completely covered up and there's stuff written on it, so they pick up one of those. And the bookstore is next to a gym, like I said, and the gym gets blown up and lots of people inside the bookstore get hurt and or die. And this is the first moment where, I mean, obviously right when they get the call, they know they're going to die and they understand that. But then throughout the day, they're getting a little bit more comfortable. They're doing just like friend stuff and they're less aware. But this like really snaps them back and they're like, oh shit, we are going to die today. But they're both totally fine. They go to Althea Park, which is a place that's like both like significant to both of them. They both really like it there. And Rufus ends up giving away his bike because he's like, yo, he sees this guy in the park who has like a busted bike, and he's like, hey, do you want mine? I'm not really using it. And Mateo's been so weird about the bike this whole time because he thinks it's like a death trap. And Rufus decides that that Althea Park is where he wants to have his ashes scattered. They end up riding the subway. They play a game on the subway where they make up lives for people. They called it Traveler. And then, so they're like, oh, that lady, she's a librarian, and she's late for work, haha. And then, they make up lives for themselves as well. So, like, there's some chemistry at this point. So they're kind of like, oh, hey, yeah, like, that's that guy we did this with. And, well, when we go to the bar later, we got to make sure we tell JoJo about the old shots game. I don't know. Just kind of like they've known each other forever. And, like, they're going to, like, do stuff together after this day. They end up meeting up with Lydia again because she finds out that Mateo kind of just came in and then left without saying anything. So they meet up. So they go to the World Travel Arena, which is basically this place where you can experience like different countries, and there's little kind of like kitschy things you can do at each station. There's like a train where you can go like around the world in 80 minutes, which is what they end up doing. And when they're going around, one of the train stops in Puerto Rico, and they all decide to do the rainforest jump, which like is sort of like the skydiving thing, but like much more real, and it has the whole water thing. So Rufus has kind of got to get over it. The boys hold hands when they jump. And they kind of like don't let go for a little bit. Anyway, and then Rufus finally says, I have something I want to do also. And that is that he wants to go to Clint's graveyard, which is like this club, so that Rufus can see his boys, the Plutos, again. So Rufus uploads a photo of Clint's when they get there, like of the sign, to his Instagram. And this is a big mistake. Huge. Have you seen Pretty Women? Because, spoiler, so Peck is trying to figure out where Rufus is so that he can get some revenge on him for kind of beating the shit out of him earlier. And so he's been following him on his Instagram, so now he has a location because he posted that. Now we are in part 4 at the end. The boys end up seeing American Pie because it's like kind of a karaoke place inside, and it just hits different because like everybody there is like, oh my god, this will be the day that I die. And then backstage the boys kiss. Eek! They've been like obsessed with each other forever. Peck's gang shows up to the club. He's got a gun. He's like, I'm gonna end this boy. Mateo punches Peck. Oh! Peck's second is about to knock out Mateo, but he hesitates. And we find out that apparently Mateo gave him the shoes off his feet once, like when they were little. And so he kind of like recognizes Mateo, and that's why he hesitates. The boys absolutely rock it out there. They go back to Mateo's apartment. They play house, and they're real cute. Like, oh, we live together. We're so cute. They end up saying that they love each other. It's so sweet. And then they take a nap, and they are like, okay, this is our island on the bed. We're not getting off here. Like, we can't die. We can't get hurt if we're on our little island. Mateo gets a little brave. He breaks their promise not to leave the bed because he wants to get up and make tea. And he's like, oh, be so cute. Remember the stove? Yeah, it's been leaking gas. So Mateo turns on the stove, and the stove blows up, and he is dead, like, the second he realizes. Rufus wakes up, and there's smoke, and he's so upset. He's like, where is Mateo? Oh my god, I can't believe he got out of bed. We were gonna... Oh, my heart. So Rufus gets out and everything, and he's like, they're like, dude, Mateo's dead. He's like, no, you gotta bring him back. Like, we promised we'd be together. He's dead. We cut to Delilah. She calls her ex, and he says he didn't prank her, because she's like... I'll just check it out. I just want to know. He's like, he didn't prank her. It's like 10 o'clock at night at this point. So, like, she's kind of screwed. She's like, oh my god. And Victor, remember Victoria, who is actually Victor. Victor's the boyfriend, ex-boyfriend. He's like, oh my god, stay exactly where you are because you're going to die and I need to see you. She's like, oh my god, please come. Please come. And she's at this little cafe that's near Althea Park. So Victor races to see her. He's zooming in his car. Rufus visits Mateo's dad and tells him about his son and the Insta. Still in coma, but he like says it out loud. He's like, your son was a great guy. I really loved him. And this is my Instagram so you can see everything we did on his last day. And Rufus is like, you know what? I want to spend my last moments in Althea Park to wait out my time. So he's walking along, and earlier in the book, Mateo was there to like throw out his arm and stop him from crossing the street. And at the very end of the book, he is walking on the street and there's nobody there to stop him, and it's implied that he is hit by Victor's car on the way to the park. And that's where the book ends. So TLDR, two boys are destined to die at the end of the day, meet up because of a friend finder app, have mediocre adventures, fall in love, and you guessed it, die. That is TLDR, and we'll see you next time.
Oh my god, oh no.